First thing we're going to do then is create a new composition. New composition, we want to make sure that our settings are the same, 1280 by 720, 24 frames per second. And for the duration, since this is a tutorial, we're just going to do a quick tutorial, 5 seconds duration, black background, and then select OK. And now we have this comp is open. Now to rename that comp, so click on it in the project window, return. I want to call this 17 tutorial. And then my initials. Okay, so when you turn it in, I'll be able to find it easily. And we'll go down to this timeline window, select on it so that you have the yellow outline here. Now, in order to do this, you have to have a shape. So we're going to make a new shape layer. So go up to the layer pull down, new, we want a solid shape. Doesn't matter what color it is. We want it to be the same comp size as everything else. Okay. And now we have this lovely blue shape. But we're not going to actually end up with a blue shape at all. It's not going to have that color because we're going to apply effects to it. And the first effect we will apply is going to make it a black and white image. So let's make sure before we start doing anything that the resolution downsample factor pop-up is set for half, because what we're going to do is going to use a lot of memory, and in RAM it would be very difficult for it to preview if you didn't set the resolution down. Before we output, we will go ahead and set it back up again. And I'm going to set this to fit, so this will have the largest size it can be in the window. That's what that does. We want to go to the effects right over here. An effects and presets window, which is on the far right in the middle, it has a search that is extremely useful. We want to apply an effect to give it some kind of a texture and sort of differentiation, black and white, lots of contrast. So we're going to use fractal noise. To get that to come up, we will type the word fractal. And you see there's two fractals, there's fractal and fractal noise. We want fractal noise. To apply it to the currently selected layer, which is our solid, double click. And you see all the colors gone. All it is this very strong sort of cloudy pattern. This is exactly what we want. Now, we want to go up to the effect controls, which is going to replace your project window or your project window, but you can always go back to it by clicking on it. Here's the effect controls, and we want to change the fractal type to dynamic twist. Kind of makes it interesting looking, doesn't it? And now we want to get, because that's got a sort of a flame shape to it already, doesn't it? And now for the noise type, let's go for spline, because we want to exaggerate sort of the line quality of it. And now we come down to the transform and click on transform the triangle to fly it out. And we want to go to the scale, but we want to turn off uniform scaling. So turn that off so it's no longer uniform. Now we can scale width and height separately. The width, we want to choose a value between 50 to 60. Now you can either drag the slider around if it wants to let me here. So there's 50, or you could select the field and type 50 and then hit enter. And then we want to scale the height, and the height we want to scale between 300 and 400. And this is because we want to give it a sense of being flames that are dragging up towards the sky. So I'm going to go about 350. So just It's not, it doesn't have to be an exact number, but this is just sort of an idea of what kind of thing you want to have. You can play with some of the other things if you want to, but we're just going to be doing something that's very basic here. Now, we want to go to the evolution field here. We want to enable the stopwatch. So click on the stopwatch to place a keyframe. So that's the keyframe is going to be there. If you want to see where it is, you can come down and click on it in the timeline window and press U, and that shows you where the keyframes are. Now we're going to come back up here, and we're going to change the time indicator. So for the current time indicator, we're going to move it down to the last frame. So the CTI is this current time indicator, CTI. Move it to the last frame, which is 4:23. Remember, since the first frame is 0, the last frame is going to be the last frame you can have before 5 seconds, which is the 23rd frame. And now we're going to change this value. Now you could just drag it anywhere you want to, but let's, for the sake of just argument, let's say we want it to be almost a full revolution, so let's try 359. Since it's going to be in degrees of rotation. And now we'll go back to the first frame. You see how nice that is. And now let's Command S to make sure we've got it saved. Now we're going to apply another effect, because this is very nice, but it is black and white. Okay, and we want to have a very realistic flame. So let's go back to the Effects and Presets window, and let's type in the word Colorama. Colorama will colorize, and it will give you all kinds of preset palettes. So we can add that. This is the default. And we'll come down to the Colorama here. This is the default settings for this. But if you go to the output cycle, which is right here, you've got input phase, output cycle, you'll see there's preset palettes. There's no preset palette now. This is the default. And it's just all the colors. But what we want to use is fire. And now, doesn't that look just incredible? It's just beautiful. Okay, let's save that. Command S. Before you press the spacebar, make sure that instead of saying full, it says half. And then you can press the spacebar. And now you can see it looks very flame-like. But it's kind of calm for a flame. I want it to be a little bit more energetic. So now we're going to apply another effect. Let's go to turbulent displace. So come in here and type in turbulent. And you see turbulent displace. So let's apply that. You can see it gives it a little bit more motion there. And we can go to frame 000, which is the first frame. And we're going to go to evolution and enable the stopwatch for that. Then go to the last frame. And now once again, let's put in 359 degrees of rotation. You see it's going to move a little bit more. Now let's Command S, save it. And you can always add a little bit more to the size or the offset of the turbulence. Let's see if we give it a little bit more here. So it goes through more changes there. Command S. And now Let's go ahead and hit the space bar again. Now one more note, if you are looking at some of these choices, there's a lot of things you can play around with here, and I think you can go ahead and just play with all of these at different times. I mean, it's fun to see what the different options are and what different things do, and you won't know how you can use it until you do some experimentation. But if you look at some of these things, make sure that you have pinning set to what you want, because if you don't pin it, it's going to pull away from the edges of the composition. So if you pin all, it sticks to the edges, and if you change it to one of the other settings, it's going to change how it looks. You'll see gaps and everything. But see, isn't that lovely? It looks very flame-like. And now we can go ahead and save that again, and we can go to composition. Oh wait, first we're going to change this to full. So before you actually render this, you want to go down and change the resolution to full, and then go to composition, make movie. You come down to the output module, and you choose the H.264, which is the kind of compression we want to use. It will give the name of the movie, will be the name that you gave to this composition, and make sure it's an MP4. And I would select it and make sure that it's going into the folder I want it to go into, and I think I want to put it into this folder, because it always reverts to the last folder it was saved into, so you want to make sure you select the correct folder. Now I'm going to save that information, and at this point I'm going to come over and click render. And once again, since this is a very large amount of information, it takes longer to render. So you probably want to take a minute or two and just take a break, eat lunch, whatever. Make sure that your computer is not left unattended though. If you have to leave the room, make sure you have a friend watching it so nobody interrupts it. And there you go.